sure my mom gifted it to me. With Irish fairy and folk tales, and it's got a couple stories in here. I'll show you the chapters. There's a couple more on the next page as well. I actually technically already recorded this, but none of the audio recorded at all. So, this time around, I actually kind of skimmed through and picked a story instead of just starting from the beginning. But the one I picked is called The Bunworth Banshee by D. Crofton Kroger. There was one I already read, like I said, and I have to be honest, there were some words I did not know how to pronounce because they're like Irish towns and Irish names and all that. But I'm gonna try my best, and hopefully it actually records this time. But yeah, let's get started. So, The Bunworth Banshee by D. Crofton Kroger. The Reverend Charles Bunworth was rector of Buttevant in the county of Cork by the middle of the last century. He was a man of unaffected piety and of sound learning, pure in heart, and benevolent in intention. By the rich he was respected, and by the poor beloved, nor did a difference of creed prevent their worth looking up to the minister. So was Mr. Bunworth called by them, in matters of difficulty and in seasons of distress, confident of receiving him the advice and assistance that a father would afford to his children. He was the friend and the benefactor of the surrounding country. To him, from the neighbouring town of Newmarket, came both Corinne and Yelverton for advice and instruction, previous to their entrance at Dublin College. Young, indigent, and inexperienced, these afterwards eminent men received from him, in addition to the advice they sought, pecuniary aid, and the brilliant career which was theirs justified in discrimination of the giver. But what extended the fame of Mr. Bunworth far beyond the limits of the parishes adjacent to his own was by his performance on the Irish harp in his hospitable reception and entertainment of the poor harpers who travelled from house to house about the country. I already have a question, if anyone knows. So they refer to him as the minister and Reverend Bunworth, but the story keeps referring to him as Mr. Bunworth. Are you allowed to call reverends and pastors Mr.? Like, you probably are, but wouldn't you think you'd want to use their title for respect? It's just a question. Anyway, grateful to their patron, these itinerant minstrels sang his praises at the tingling accompaniment of their harps, invoking in return for his bounty abundant blessings on his white head, and celebrating in their rude verses the blooming charms of his daughters, Elizabeth and Mary. It was all these poor fellows could do, but who can doubt that their gratitude was sincere when, at the time of Mr. Bunworth's death, no less than 15 harps were deposited on the loft of his granary, bequeathed to him by the last members of a race which now ceased to exist. Trifling, no doubt, in intrinsic value were these relics, yet there is something in gifts of the heart that merits preservation, and it is to be regretted that, when he died, these harps were broken up one after the other and used as firewood by an ignorant follower of the family, who, on the removal to Cork for a temporary change of scene, was left in charge of the house. Why would you? Who just takes harps and breaks them up and use them as firewood? Like, that's just... Okay. The circumstances attending the death of Mr. Bunworth may be doubted by some, but there are still living credible witnesses who declare their authenticity and can be produced to attest most, if not all, of the following particulars. About a week previous to his dissolution, and early in the evening, a noise was heard at the hall door resembling the shearing of sheep but at the time no particular attention was paid to it. It was nearly 11 o'clock the same night when Kavanagh, the herdsman, returned from Mallow, whither he had been sent in the afternoon for some medicine, and was observed by Mrs. Bunworth, to whom he delivered the parcel, to be much agitated. At this time, it must be observed, her father was by no means considered in danger. "What is the matter, Kavanagh?" asked Miss Bunworth, but the poor fellow, with a bewildered look, only uttered, "The master, miss, the master, he is going from us." And overcame with real grief, he burst into a flood of tears. Miss Bunworth, who was a woman of strong nerve, inquired if anything he had learned in Mallow induced him to suppose that her father was worse. "No, miss," said Kavanagh, "it was not in Mallow." "Kavanagh," said Miss Bunworth, with that stateliness of manner for which she is said to have been remarkable, "or for you have been drinking, which I must say I did not expect at such a time as the present, when it was your duty to have kept yourself sober. I thought you might have been trusted. What should we have done if you had broken the medicine bottle or lost it? For the doctor said it was of the greatest consequence that your master should take it tonight. But I shall speak to you in the morning, when you are in a fitter state to understand what I say." Kavanagh looked up with a stupidity of aspect which did not serve to remove the impression of his being drunk, as his eyes appeared heavy and dull after the flood of tears, but his voice was not that of an intoxicated person. "Miss," said he, "as I hope to receive mercy hereafter, neither bit nor sup has passed my lips since I left this house, but the master—" "Speak softly," said Miss Bunworth. "He sleeps, and is going on as well as we could expect." "Praise be to God for that, anyway," replied Kavanagh. "But oh, miss, he is going from us surely. We will lose him, the master. We will lose him, we will lose him." And he wrung his hands together. "What is it you mean, Kavanagh?" asked Miss Bunworth. "Is it mean?" said Kavanagh. "The banshee has come for him, miss, and 'tis not I alone who have heard her." "'Tis an idle superstition," said Miss Bunworth. "May be so," replied Kavanagh, as if the words idle superstition only sounded upon his ear without reaching his mind. "May be so," he continued. "But as I came through the glen of Ballybeg—" I gotta be honest, Ireland, what are these names? I love it. "She was along with me, keening and screeching and clapping her hands by my side every step of the way, with her long white hair falling all about her shoulders, and I could hear her repeat the master's name every now and then. As plain as ever I heard it. When I came to the old abbey, she parted from me there, and turned into the pigeon field next to the barren ground. And folding her cloak about her, down she sat under the tree that was struck by the lightning, and began keening so bitterly that it went through one's heart to hear it." "Kavanagh," said Miss Bunworth, who had, however, listened attentively to his remarkable relation, "my father is, I believe, better, and I hope will himself soon be up and able to convince you that all this is but your own fancy. Nevertheless, I charge you not to mention what you have told me, for there is no occasion to frighten your fellow servants with the story." Mr. Bunworth gradually declined, but nothing particular occurred until the night previous to his death. That night both his daughters, exhausted from continued attendance and watching, were prevailed upon to seek some repose, and an elderly lady, a near relative and friend of the family, remained by the bedside of their father. The old gentleman then lay in the parlor, where he had been in the morning removed at his own request, fancying the change would afford him relief, and the head of his bed was placed close to the window. In a room adjoining sat some male friends, and as usual on like occasions of illness, in the kitchen many of the followers of the family had assembled. The night was serene and moonlight, the sick man slept, and nothing broke the stillness of their melancholy watch, when the little party in the room adjoining the parlor, the door of which stood open, was suddenly roused by a sound at the window near the bed. A rose tree grew outside the window, so close as to touch the glass. This was forced aside with some noise, and a low moaning was heard, accompanied by a clapping of hands, as if of a female in deep affliction. It seemed as if the sound proceeded from a person holding her mouth close to the window. The lady who sat by the bed side of Mr. Bunworth went into the adjoining room, inquired of the gentlemen there if they had heard the banshee. Skeptical of supernatural appearances, two of them rose hastily and went out to discover the cause of these sounds, which they had also distinctly heard. They walked all around the house, examining every spot of ground, particularly near the window from whence the voice had proceeded. The bed of earth beneath, in which the rose tree was planted, had been recently dug, and the print of a footstep, if the tree had been forced aside by a mortal hand, would have inevitably remained. But they could perceive no such impression, and an unbroken stillness reigned without. Hoping to dispel the mystery, they continued their search anxiously along the road, from the straightness of which and the lightness of the night. They were enabled to see some distance around them, but all was silent and deserted, and they returned surprised and disappointed. How much more, then, were they astonished at learning that the whole time of their absence, those who remained within the house had heard the moaning and clapping of hands even louder and more distinct than before they had gone out. And no sooner was the door of the room closed on them than they again heard the same mournful sounds. Every succeeding hour the sick man became worse, and as the first glimpse of the morning appeared, Mr. Bunworth expired. And that was The Bunworth Banshee by T. Crofton Kroger. It's interesting with some of these folk tales. I wonder if there's supposed to be a moral or a resolution really to the story. It seems like not sometimes. I'm not entirely sure what this one was supposed to be. There's a lot of other stories we could get to in here, and I'd love to make more videos, honestly. Yeah, I hope this one works out. It was a very spur of the moment decision, but this took me about an hour to set up because I was running into so many problems.